Hey folks, and welcome back to the channel. Here in this video, we're going to be taking a look at my rounds that I played at the 2022 Lakeview Classic out in Citronelle, Alabama. It's going to be my last tournament of 2022, and it's also my first tournament playing in the MA2 division, or the intermediate division. Essentially, earlier this year, I had kind of made a deal that I would move up to intermediate in one of three scenarios. Essentially, the first scenario would be if I just rated out of MA3. I think the cap for MA3 is 900, so if I were to get 900 or more rated, I'd obviously move up to MA2 that way. The other way I was going to do it was I was going to move up to MA2 to start off 2023 no matter what. Regardless of my rating or regardless of whether I got a win or anything like that, I was going to move up to MA2 come 2023. But the third way I was planning on moving up to MA2 was if I got a win in MA3. Simply put, I didn't feel comfortable getting a win in MA3 and sticking around afterwards. I feel like once you get a win, it's probably time to move on up. There's some exceptions to this, obviously, depending on, if you have like a really low rating and you happen to catch a win, but you still feel like you're not really where you want to be. And obviously, once you get to, divisions like MA1 or something like that, if you don't want to turn pro, then you're kind of just going to play MA1 no matter what, even if you're getting a bunch of wins. So there's some exceptions to that, but for me personally, I just didn't like the idea of sticking around MA3 after getting a win, especially after getting a big win. I won a B tier in Foley at the shootouts, and I did so against, I believe, like 20 to 25 other players. So it felt like a really big win, and so I decided to go ahead and move up to MA2 for this Lakeview Classic for my last event of the year. And I kind of went into this with really no expectations. I knew it was me moving up in, the level of competition I would be playing. And I kind of just wanted to feel it out, see how I did. And it would kind of give me an idea of where I was at and what I needed to work on as I move into playing more intermediate tournaments next year. So without further ado, let's jump into it here. We're in round 1 at Citronelle. We're starting out here on hole 15. I actually started on hole 14, took a bogey on that hole, didn't have it on film. But now we are going to start things off here on hole 15. This is going to be a par 4. Also, I did do a practice video that I posted recently, so if you want to see like all the holes and all the hole information, you can check it out on that video. But other than that, we're just going to be talking through the round. So here we go. So here I'm just looking to play a forehand with this left road being out of bounds. I don't want to challenge it at all with the backhand, so just trying to play the forehand.
Get back.
Turn that one over a little bit too much, but got a pretty fortunate skip and roll and put myself in a good position in the fairway.
Perfectly in the middle.
And now I'm just looking to attack the pin, which is essentially kind of like right here. I played this one a little too safe, just making sure I didn't go out of balance left, so I overturned this backhand. In an ideal world, I would have thrown that dead straight so it could fade back towards the basket and give me a chance at birdie, with it being a par 4, but got a little too timid, played it safe, and so just kind of setting up to pitch up for a par, which I'm able to do here. So now I'm at 1 over par at this point in the round after taking a bogey on the first hole. Threw this one a little nose up, so kind of cut my distance a bit short and also faded a bit more left than I wanted to. Left me with a very tricky approach to the basket, which is kind of tucked right back here behind these two trees. My goal was now just to kind of flex a forehand up there. Didn't quite get what I wanted. Nicked that tree there a little bit and kind of shorted me a little bit, but still got myself just outside circle 1 or just on the edge of it here for a birdie putt. Just didn't quite commit with the follow through, and so I wind up taking a par there, so staying at 1 over par. Just a short little tunnel shot here on 17. Pretty good shot here, but a little bit nose up, so it gets a good bit of fade at the end of the flight rather than staying in the center of the fairway. But at the end of the day, I wound up staying, pretty close to the fairway. Didn't get too deep into the woods. Have probably like a 20-footer or so here for birdie. Maybe a little longer. Able to get it in there, though, so that's going to put me back to even par. if I'm not mistaken. Didn't catch the drive on this as being hole 18, but this is my approach shot, which I throw really well. Basically park the basket, so a freebie birdie there as you're about to see. So I think now I'm right around 1 under par. Hole 1, I believe I took a bogey. So now we're on hole 2. Pretty much a picture-perfect shot, exactly what I wanted. Puts me well within circle 1 for another chance at birdie. Maybe a touch shorter than I wanted to be, but still a comfortable circle 1 putt. Able to put that one right in there, so another birdie. So I think at this point I'm somewhere around 1 under par. Pretty much a picture-perfect shot off the tee here. So far I've been pretty clean off the tee. Other than the first hole I played, which I didn't catch on film. I was kind of jittery on that one, so didn't do too hot on that. But every other tee shot so far has been pretty good. And kind of a similar situation to what happened to me on hole 16. Just not really committing to the putt, not really following through. And so I wind up being left on that one. So kind of leaving an opportunity on the table. Very next hole, just trying to play a high stall forehand into the green to give myself a chance at birdie, which I, once again, do give myself a chance here. Probably just on the edge of circle 1. So I'm not really giving myself easy putts for birdie, but I'm certainly giving myself chances. And, again, just undercommitted putt. Comes up short. So that's 3 putts now where I feel like I've just been timid or just didn't really commit. And that's... You know, definitely 3 strokes I've left on the table so far, which is a little bit disappointing, but a lot of golf still to be played. Very difficult par 3 here on hole 5. I feel like this should probably be a par 4, just the way it's shaped. But I throw a really good tee shot here.
Oh, no, what are you doing?
I do not know what I was doing. That was just a... We're actually stopped there. I don't know what I was thinking here. My usual approach, if I'm within 100 feet of the basket or so, maybe 150 feet, is just to do a jump putt approach. Not because I'm trying to run it and make it with the jump putt, but just because I feel really confident with my jump putt to get it close to the basket. But I was kind of just outside that comfortable jump putt approach range. And so what I really should have done is just some type of like light standstill backhand, which is probably the weakest part of my game. I usually would prefer doing a forehand upshot. That's what I feel most comfortable with. But I just didn't have the confidence to go to the backhand upshot, and so I tried to do this weird hybrid putt throw thing and just threw it high and nose up and that was, yeah, bro, that was not good. So what I've learned is definitely need to work on the backhand upshot game, so that I can feel more comfortable approaching these baskets from that 150 to 200 foot range. So even after I threw a brilliant drive, I wound up bogeying that hole, which is really, really depressing. That should have been a 3 all day. Threw a really nice flip up straight forehand there. Really happy with that. This is a hole that can give you a lot of trouble because it's blind, downhill, and a very tight gap, but I nailed it. And I get rewarded with a dead straight putt for birdie. So now I'm kind of in that 1 or 2 under range at this point, I think.
No.
And this one I just slipped. A little bit of footing issues. It was a slightly wet tee pad. Just kind of slipped on my plant foot and just yanked it right. So just had to throw this little backhand up shot here. And I put myself right next to the basket. So while the tee shot certainly put me in some trouble, I was able to, you know, get through it and get myself a par. So no harm, no foul. Hole 8, probably the hardest hole on the course, in my opinion. A very tricky par 4. Just overturn that forehand. No doubt about it. I'm commenting myself. There's some weird complaint about me thinking that this should be more overstable, but looking back on it now, objectively, I just overturned that forehand.
No.
That one, I just let go a little early. Was trying to get it on the other side of that tree, get it to the center of the fairway. Nonetheless, I still have a way up to the basket, so not all hope is lost. I actually throw a pretty crafty standstill little touch forehand there and give myself a chance to still save par. And just blow it wide right. And I'm going to be honest, I started getting a little in my head here. I was keeping like a pretty good, composure. And it's something I, really talked about in my last video at the Foley tournament that I won, that, the mental game, and was something I really worked on, reading some sports psychology books and just trying to focus on letting things go and just kind of focusing on the positive and just trying to, just move on, just try to have that goldfish memory. But at this point in the round, I've already shorted like 3 or 4 putts that could have been birdies. I've already blown a hole that I should have parred and took a bogey on it instead. And that was another situation where I had a chance to save par even after a rough tee shot and just blew a very easy putt. So putting was definitely an issue for me this first round, and it was just not what I expected because I had putted so well at the Foley tournament. I had been practicing my putt a ton leading into that Foley tournament and in the interim. Like, these last 2 or 3 weeks before this event, I was putting every day. My putt was feeling really good. And so to see me miss that many putts is starting to really get to me. The first couple I can kind of just chalk up to being a bit timid because, the tournament's just started. I'm a little jittery, a little bit of pressure. That's going to happen. Maybe it takes you a second to settle in. But I felt like enough holes had gone by at this point that I really should have been kind of getting my stride with my putt. And to be fair, I have hit at this point already, 2 or 3 pretty big putts, a couple for birdie. So I felt like I should be on track, and I don't know. I was really struggling with the putt, and I think I know why now, and I'll point it out here when I see it in a second on like one of the things that was definitely hurting me. But let's continue on here. This is hole 9, a very tricky downhill hole. Just nose up and yanked it to the right.
Wow.
Very tricky position, though, here. This is labeled as a par 4 on the scorecard, but it's probably more of a par 3. This is the hole that I eagled, technically, in my practice video that you would have seen. So this is actually for a birdie, but really more a par save.
You got to give these a chance, Dustin.
And there you go. That's it. You got to give these a chance was like the main thing I just said there. We'll look at it again. And you'll notice this is the same thing that was kind of happening to me at the Foley tournament.
You got to give these a chance, Dustin.
And I mean, I think that's the right way to approach it, where I'm not being self-deprecating, I'm not raging, but it's more of I'm giving myself like an objective mental note that, hey, man, you have to give these a chance. You can't keep being scared of the putt. You have to, get it up there and, give it a shot. If you keep throwing these things low, you keep being timid, you're not going to make putts. And so that was the mental note I was trying to make. I'm trying to make that adjustment here towards the end of the first round as we get into a very tight, like 260-foot hole here on hole 10. Not much of a gap here, but got to hit it.
Yep.
And I did so very well. Just kind of threw a putter at it. Make sure I could hit the gap.
Through the gap.
Wasn't really looking to... This wasn't one of those holes where it's like I need to birdie. It'd be kind of a bonus. I just wanted to make sure I hit the gap and don't get in trouble. And I'm able to, pitch myself up here and make sure I can get a 3. Even that was a little low, but it did make it over. And so now we're approaching the final holes of this first round, and we're on hole 11 here, par 3.
Get out.
And once again, this is kind of what happened to me on hole 8, where that is probably my most overstable distance driver. It's a Halo Emperor, so pretty overstable. I'm used to being able to put it on a good bit of Anheuser and just kind of throwing some flex forehands. And either one or two things has kind of happened with this disc. It's either A, it's gotten too beat in where it can't handle that much Anheuser anymore. It does not fight back as much as it used to. Or simply, and more likely, I'm just turning it over way too much to where even though it's very overstable, I'm just, you know, putting so much angle on it that it can't fight back. And so the goal was to skip it off this road because I felt like this gap here was the biggest gap you could go for. You know, if you try to play up the center of the fairway here, and there's just a lot that you have to miss, whereas this gap is huge. So, yeah, just put way too much angle on it. Never really had a chance to get back to the road and actually skip back. So I wound up going out of bounds. So here's where my lie was. This is me now throwing 3, just trying to pitch up and save bogey. Completely whiffed the upshot, leaving myself a very long putt for bogey.
Come on, dude.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, that one hurts a lot. I mean, there's really no other way around it. Once again, I short the putt, which is already tough, and kind of want to see how close that was. I mean, not too bad. A couple of inches, really, stopping that from going in to save bogey, but
Come on, dude.
to add insult to injury of all the putting woes I've been having, now I have this massive roll away. And so now I'm probably, I don't know, 80 away from the basket. Just kind of toss it up there, and that's going to do it for the first round. So here is my scorecard for the first round. I took it manually kind of on UDisc. We're using paper scorecards because out where we were, there wasn't really good signal, so we couldn't really do the PDGA live scoring. So this is what I did in the first round. We started on hole 14. I actually wound up parring that hole, even though I made a pretty big blunder on it. Then after that, you know, parred 15, parred 16. Got a couple of birdies in a row there on the short tunnel shot, hole 17, as well as the par 4 on hole 18. Bogeyed 1, but immediately bounced back with a birdie. Parred 3, even though I had a very good chance at birdie there, just short of the putt. Same thing here on hole 4. Missed a huge birdie opportunity there. Hole 5 was that hole just blundered up shot that turned into a bogey. Bounced back, though, with a nice birdie on hole 6. Save a par on hole 7 after slipping on the tee pad, which kind of threw my tee shot off. Missed the par save putt here on hole 8. And then on holes 9 and 10, I get a couple of pars. Really nothing wrong with those. Those were fair enough. And then on hole 11, I get the triple bogey after going OB off the tee. Totally my fault. Miss a putt. Again, totally my fault, but then get a very unlucky roll away, which basically leads to an additional stroke. And so this one actually really hurt. I was in position after the first, you know, let's see, 6 or 7 holes I played, you know, at 2 under par. And then just really missed some opportunities on a couple of birdies. It really had a chance to shoot maybe like a 4 under par or something like that this round, just based on how I was shooting off the tee. And just based on the positions I was putting myself in, but just, you know, really dropped the ball on a couple of opportunities and then really had just an unfortunate triple bogey on 11 after that nasty roll away. So I wound up finishing the round 2 over par. I think it was rated just under 900. I think it was like 890 rated or something like that. Again, really tough because even if you just take away the triple bogey on 11, you forget about all the other strokes left on the table with the putting. I probably still could have shot 1 under par at worst, and that would have put me in a tie for second going into the second round, and it would have been probably rated around 930, which is well above my current rating and would have been really awesome. But instead, I shoot 2 over par. I think this put me in a tie for 5th out of 10 players, and that set me off onto the second round with a lot of work left to do to get a good finish. But the goal really at this point was to just try to get into the top 3, or at least top 4. That was really the goal, because I think top 4 would put you in, quote-unquote, the cash, which obviously for AMs it just means getting plastic or some other kind of prizing. You know, that was kind of the goal. But I was certainly in striking distance to do it. I think I was only 1 stroke away from 4th and like 2 strokes away from 3rd, so I was certainly in position to still really compete for a top 3 finish. And Now we'll check out the second round. So in the second round, I actually start on the very hole that I took a triple bogey on to kind of start ending my first round. And so this time I take a more overstable disc at a lower speed and just play it smart and safe. Caught a branch, was cut my distance. Without that branch, I might have been maybe 15 feet further forward and would have maybe actually had like a reasonable circle 2 putt for birdie. Instead, I'm very deep in circle 2, if not outside of it entirely. And so it's more of just giving it a small chance, but really just trying to make sure I get my par, which I was able to do. So no problem there. So we're on the very next hole, hole 12. I was just off my line by a little, like a foot. And so I get caught up on this left patch of trees. Still good chance to at least save par here. Have a pretty good open look at the basket to get up and down. And just nose up stall. The up shot just absolutely fluffed it. So up shots is definitely something I know I need to work on for sure, both forehand and backhand after watching back this tournament. Short a putt again for the par save, so take a bogey there. So I'm starting 1 over par in the first couple of holes. Now we're on hole 13.
Hey.
Get through there. Yeah.
Really good tee shot there. Good chance for birdie here. Probably only about 15 feet from the basket. And now that rolls down the hill, giving me an even more difficult putt than I started with to save par. But I get it done, so tip my hat there. But one thing I wanted to point out is one thing I feel like is happening is I'm just, the way my chest is just facing so far down towards the ground instead of being more upright. I'm just so bent over. And this happens when I'm doing my normal putt as well, not just a straddle putt. Is this, when you see, because I'm still so chest pointed low, when the disc comes out, again, chest still pointed low, even when I come up, I mean, the disc is just coming out with my chest pointed down, arm pointed downward rather than straight ahead, or maybe even a little bit pointed upward. And so when the putt comes out, it's just coming out mega low. So if I could just straighten my chest out, be more upright, and make sure my arm is extending straight out instead of downward, this putt, instead of hitting where it does on the top of the basket here, you know, I'm hitting up here somewhere all day long. So I think that part of my issues putting this tournament was certainly mental, you know, the pressure, getting, you know, a little bit scared after missing a bunch of putts, starting to get timid, starting to kind of feel like it's just not my day. But some of it is just an actual physical thing that I feel like I can work on when I start practice putting again. And it's really just about making sure I get that upright chest motion as opposed to just being just so downward facing and just therefore causing me to release it really low. So something I'm definitely going to look to try to correct going forward. So at least I've been able to identify something physically wrong with the putt that I can try to tweak. And then the mental aspect will just be something I work on over time. So now we're over on hole 14. And this one I just didn't get enough on. I didn't quite get behind that disc, threw it kind of light, so it just fizzled out early. And so I'm left with a very long bit at birdie, uphill. Winds up just turning into a par. Now we're back on the hole 15. After being kind of in a really dicey situation the first round, I played this one a lot safer. Play a lot more of a high stall shot to make sure I don't risk the road at all. However, this made my angle a lot tougher for the up shot to try to get the birdie, which I'll try to show you here in just a second. Yeah, so you can see I'm kind of on this tree line as opposed to being more left to the road, which would have made the up shot a lot easier. And once again, I kind of just play it safe, and therefore it turns out to be a big turnover as opposed to really going to the pin for a birdie look. And instead, I'm kind of in a similar spot to where I was the first round, where I'm just kind of playing it safe for par. Gave that kind of a slight run, to be fair, but, you know, just taking the par, so I think I'm still 1 over for the round, if I'm not mistaken. This time around, I throw a much better tee shot than I did the first round. I get that nose down. I get a lot more travel, a lot more turn, and so I get to a better spot in the fairway. And I'm able to take full advantage, get that nice hyzer gap, hit it perfectly, park the basket, and that's a birdie. And so now I'm even par with that. Go over to hole 17. Similar situation to the last round where I just threw it a little bit nose up, and so it just drifted left instead of staying straight. And this time I have a much more difficult putt, excuse me, than what I had the first time around, but almost grabbed it. Either way, get my par, stay at even, move on over to hole 18 here. Play a similar shot to the first round, just trying to play towards this green electric box in the center.
I love my power box.
I do love that power box. It's a great landing zone. Gives you a really clean up shot to the basket for birdie.
No,
But I just let go early. And that's, again, I was fluffing these up shots with the forehand. That one was more of just not following through. And now I have these branches in my face, so I don't really have even a clean look to run this for birdie. I kind of still try to take somewhat of a stab at it, but don't really get anything going there, so that's going to be a par. Still staying at even. But, yeah, up shots is definitely something I need to work on. Overturn this forehand just a slight bit, but still getting to a good spot to at least pitch up for par. Land that on a good angle to make sure I don't get a roll away and tap that in. So that's going to be a 3. So now I'm still at even. Moving on to hole 2. Birdied at the last round. Looking to hopefully do the same thing here. And I fluffed this one nose up just like I did. I believe it was hole 14. And so you can see there's like this little yellow line here. And that was actually an out of bounds line. And so this is the one complaint I'm going to have about this tournament, and I know a lot of people from my local community who are watching this are just going to kind of roll their eyes at me for this one. But this OB line was not actually drawn or even discussed until 2 days before the tournament. And the line wasn't actually drawn until either the day before the tournament or the morning of the tournament. And so when I was practicing all week, this OB line wasn't here. And it was never mentioned in anything that we saw. So just kind of annoying to have to deal with an out-of-bounds situation that I didn't even realize was going to be in play until I showed up the day of the tournament and got to see the line. Obviously, I knew it was there since the beginning of the first round. And obviously, during the first round, I avoided it no problem with the good shot. This round, I threw a bad shot. And hey, I mean, that's on me. I knew the OB line was there at that point, and yeah, I threw a bad shot. But I will admit, I was a little annoyed because, I mean, my disc was like not too far to the left here. And so I could have been able to easily get up and down for a 3 and at least salvage a par. But instead, I'm out of bounds, and I wound up, you know, putting myself now in a situation where bogey is looking very likely. And, I mean, yeah, I just didn't get any height on that putt. So I wound up taking a bogey on that one, so now I'm 1 over par. Again, slightly frustrating about the whole OB line situation, but at the same time, I did throw a bad shot off the tee, and so it is what it is. This one, I pulled a little bit to the right compared to the first round. And so I don't really have an easy look at birdie. And honestly, I wasn't even trying to go for it. It was a sloped fairway. I didn't want to risk a roll away, so just kind of pitch up for par.
Get through them, please.
Throw a great forehand here. Great chance at birdie. And I mean, all right. Again, people are going to roll their eyes at me. And look, I've been throwing pretty poor putts a lot this round, so I don't know if it would have made a difference. But it was really unlucky that if you just listen in here on kind of what happens when I'm starting my putt. This, like, a very loud conversation starts right when I'm mid-putting stroke, which really kind of just threw me off. A couple of my people on the card even commented, what a great time to have a conversation. And it is what it is. But I was already having a poor time putting, and so to have a distraction thrown into that certainly hurt. But I admit I'm kind of whining a little bit. So here we go. Last round I threw a great tee shot. This round done it again. I switched my approach, and yeah, I need some work on the backhand up shots. Up shots need work. Still gave myself a pretty good chance to get a 3 here, though. The putting just wasn't there, man. The putting just wasn't there. What can I say? Laced this one again, though. Very similar shot to the first round. Very similar position to get a birdie, potentially. I missed low for probably the millionth time. Not really, but, you know, I'm exaggerating. Throw a really good shot here, and then that one branch. Without that branch, I'm probably much closer to the pin, maybe even have a chance to grab a 2. Instead, I'll take the 3 on that hole. Or, well, spoiler alert, I guess. I do take the 3, as you're about to see. And now we're on to the last hole of the tournament, hole number 10. This time I get a little bit more aggressive since it's the last hole. Kind of want to finish strong. Throw a mid-range here into the putter.
Go in.
All right, I'm in.
Once again, I hit the gap really nicely and give myself a birdie putt. And so I finish strong with the bird, which is always nice. So now we'll take a look at the final scorecard here for the second round. This time around, I started on hole 11, able to par this time around as opposed to taking the 6. Then on hole 12, I took that bogey. We kind of saw that, just rough shot off the tee, bad up shot, leads to a bogey. Hole 13, I had a huge opportunity for a birdie, but absolutely just threw a terrible putt, which we kind of analyzed and talked about, you know, some of the physical things that were wrong with that putt that kind of hurt me. Very next hole, I wound up parring that one after kind of just a subpar tee shot. Hole 15, I play it safe, get the par, no problem. Get the birdie on 16, which was nice. 17 and 18. Missed a couple opportunities there for birdie, but it is what it is. Get the par on hole 1. Get the bogey on hole 2 because of the out of bounds, which we talked about. Get a couple of pars. Hole 4 being the one that hurt the most because I feel like I had a pretty good chance at birdie there, but wasn't having a good putting day and kind of got distracted by a conversation going on nearby. Kind of threw me off on that one. And then hole 5, once again, great tee shot just like the first round, but kind of didn't do the best with the upshot and then missed a key putt. And then we see, again, another missed opportunity for birdie on hole 6 with the missed putt. I don't think I showed this on video, but I just had a really rough time on hole 7 this tournament. I mean, that's all there is to say. Wound up parring hole 8, so kind of got a little bit of revenge on that hole. I don't think I showed that either. And then we finished off with birdies on 9 and 10 to finish things off. Essentially, just to kind of wrap this thing up, a couple of things to think about is A, with putting, I need to definitely work on just being more upright with my putt and more committed. I putt really well in Foley, and I definitely am putting a lot of practice into putting, so I feel like I'm doing some of the right things and have kind of the proof that I can do good things on the putting green. But in order for me to be more consistent, I need to just keep practicing putting, and I also need to make sure that I focus on keeping that chest up, keeping myself upright to make sure that I'm not having those low releases on my putt, and I think that that's going to help me out a lot, as well as just playing more and putting myself under more pressure situations more often. Eventually, I think that's just going to help me become a little bit more comfortable on the putting green. So that's just more of like time, reps, more tournaments, more being under pressure and just gaining that experience. Really all I can say about the putting. When it comes to tee shots, I felt like I was doing well the majority of this tournament. I really only had a couple of forehands that I kind of fluffed. And I had maybe a backhand here or there off the tee that wasn't so hot. But for the most part, I was throwing pretty clean in the woods. And so I was pretty happy with that all in all. And then the mental game aspect is something that I still need to work on. You know, I feel like in Foley, I think the reason why my mental game went so well is because I was playing so well. this is the first time since I kind of, delved into the sports psychology books and, worked on my mental game where I actually truly did face some challenges. I kind of faced some issues, and, it's ashamed to admit that I kind of cracked a little bit. I mean, I felt like I was pretty strong mentally throughout the course of the first round up until I had that nasty rollaway that turned into a triple bogey. That one really kind of cracked me. And then during the second round, I just had so many putts come up short, hitting the cage, or just, it just finally got to me. I just felt like I couldn't buy a putt. Like, it just seemed like nothing I could do would work, even though I did finally bang a couple of nice putts at the end to get a couple of birdies to finish the tournament off. So in the end, I wound up shooting 2 over par once more, which put me 4 over par overall for the tournament. That put me at 6th place out of the 10 players. And I was, I believe, 1 stroke off of 5th and 2 strokes off of 4th. So I wasn't too far off my goal of kind of finishing in the top 4, just a couple of strokes away from it. Definitely left a lot of strokes on the table with just putting. Definitely had a lot of birdies out there I could have gotten, doing my job off the tee and on the approach, but just couldn't finish the job on the putting green. And just had a couple of upshots that definitely didn't go my way. So honestly, not a bad first showing for my first MA2 event. Definitely gives me something to work on as I step into 2023 and continue to play in the intermediate division. First and foremost, I just got to keep up the putting practice, but also just work on making some physical tweaks to try to get that putt releasing a little bit higher. Then it's really just, working on upshots. Upshots killed me this tournament, I feel like, more often than not. I had some good forehand upshots at times, but I also had some that I didn't follow through properly, or I threw a little bit too nose up. So I definitely need to fine-tune the upshots with the forehand, and then I just need to get more confident in a backhand upshot. I feel like I don't have one at all. I feel like I'm either jump putting or I'm throwing forehand upshots. So I really need to grind on that backhand upshot and, like I did with straddle putting, turn it from a weakness into something I can actually put some trust in. So that's going to do it for this video. Hope you folks enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Help feed the algorithm, help the channel grow. You also can follow me on all the social media, Instagram and Twitter. Follow Dust. And yeah, catch you next time. Thanks so much.